Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynic Alex, and today I want to talk to you guys about Villain Siege. Now, Villain Siege is a very good game mode in its current iteration. It's very accessible to new players. It's still fun for veterans because they get to use recommended heroes and get some bonus gold or bonus stuff, gear up kits, debris, etc. The chaos tokens are very useful for either farming characters if you're new or farming custom gear if you're a veteran because you want to get those obelisks. And then recently they changed the bios from Cho to Kate Bishop, which is fantastic for everybody. There's nothing necessarily wrong with Villain Siege, and so this is not a make it great video, but this is just a how we can improve something, how we can make this better. Even though it's already good, I wanted to get the community together and get you guys thinking on a positive note about a good game mode that we can improve even more and make even better. But very quickly, guys, before we start the Villain Siege discussion, I want to let you know that I will be streaming 10 hours from the drop of this video as usual, Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Be there, guys. I hope to see you all. So I've come to the table with some suggestions for Villain Siege, and I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say, what you think of my ideas, and what ideas you guys have for making what is an already fun and accessible, but a little bit boring at this point if you've been playing the game for about a year, game mode in Villain Siege. So right away, I think that one of the most important things about the Chaos shop as it connects to the Villain Siege are the heroes that you are offered biometrics to buy for. And before in the game, when it first started, these heroes were cycled through pretty often. Every few months you'd get at least one hero changing hands here. But as we've progressed in the game and as we've changed heroes, the changes have gotten fewer and fewer. And now we've had Ant-Man, Elsa, and Lash in the store for as long as I can remember. I mean, we probably had them in the store before they even had tier 2s for any of these characters. So that's a long time ago. So I think that's the first thing that Netmarble could do, and probably the easiest thing that they could do is to just rotate the heroes in the shop more frequently. Whether they just do that themselves, whether they have a community option where you can vote and then your vote gets counted in towards maybe a potential eventual choice, is up to them. Obviously, there would be some factors that go into that. They wouldn't offer you the full rotation of heroes because then people would obviously be smart, hopefully, and vote for unattainable characters like A-Force or other, premium characters. But that's one thing and one easy quick fix that they could make to make it a little bit more interesting to do Villain Siege. Another thing would be to design new bosses. I remember when we got the Secret Wars bosses, it was a ton of fun. When we got the other bosses like the Loki stage and the Ultron stage, that was super fun as well. New hazards, the clones, the droids or the robots coming in for Ultron were very, very fun. And a fresh take on what we had gotten used to with Doc Ock's lasers and stuff like that. Even the Bling Pin mission with all those hazards is just very, very fun. So if they could design new stages, design new hazards, design new bosses, that would again be another way to make Villain Siege super interesting. Now I have some other suggestions that I think could change the mode a little bit more radically, but would still maintain the spirit of Villain Siege and still make it very fun for everybody. So one thing that I thought Netmarble could do, on top of introducing more stage hazards and more bosses to Villain Siege to make it more interesting, to give us a more varied rotation of people to kill, is community voting, which is kind of like cheering in the Alliance battle that we have right now, or sorry, the Alliance tournaments for different alliances. And basically, maybe Netmarble could put up in the Villain Siege at the beginning of the week after the reset. We get to choose, or maybe an hour before the reset, we get to choose for the week which grouping of villains we're going to get. We don't necessarily get to choose which villains we're going to get, but we can choose. Do we want all of the Hell's Kitchens villains like Bullseye, Kingpin? Do we want Asgardian villains like Odin and the Midgard Serpent and the Frost Beast and these Frost Giants and stuff like that? Do we want the Secret Wars villains like Maestro and Zombie Venom, etc.? So that would be very interesting. It would bring a community and a social aspect to it, and it would be fun to see what you guys really want to see, what group of villains you really want to see week after week, and that would be very fun and probably not that difficult to implement. Another idea I had that is probably a little bit harder to make happen because it involves actually changing the game mode, actually coding new content in, and making the file size for the game bigger, which I know a lot of you guys don't like, but I really do, especially this suggestion, which is a 4th stage, which I would refer to as the endless mode. Now, in this endless mode, as I'm proposing it at least, you would have 2 minutes again, because all of the regular villain sieges have only 2 minutes as the time frame. You'd have another 2 minutes after you've beaten the hard boss, and you'd just get wave after wave of bosses, whether it's Ultron or Loki or Doc Ock. They would stay in the same stage, but they would just zone in as soon as you killed the last one. And you could either have it where they maintain the same amount of health that all the other bosses have, which is about 950,000. It's very close to 1,000,000 health. Or they could get progressively harder. Now, this doesn't have to be a game mode that rewards the player with any kind of monetary, like gold or chaos tokens. It doesn't need to be a rewards-based game mode. It could just be for fun, for bragging rights. Hey, this week, I got through the Villain Siege endless mode with, I got through 10 bosses. I got through 12 bosses, whatever. And you could even have a little, insignia next to your name when people look you up, for example, and it shows for the week, oh, I got 10 kills or I got 12 kills or whatever. I'm not roasting you, dude. Don't worry. So that could be a really interesting thing. I personally like endless modes. I think they're very fun. I'm used to playing dungeon crawlers where that's pretty much a staple. So I would like to see some form of that in Marvel Future Fight, and I think Villain Siege could be a really great place to have it. Another thing that you could do, and again, this is a little bit more complicated, but you could tie the Villain Siege to your alliance. So I've been talking about this for a long time. I've brought it up in a lot of different ways, but I really think that there should be a little bit more interaction, a little bit more competition within an alliance. There is obviously competition for top score, but I don't think that's enough, and I think Netmarble could pretty easily introduce ways for intra-alliance competition, and I think Villain Siege could be a really interesting way to do it. Now, of course, this would gate people that are not in alliances from doing Villain Siege, or it could just default the Villain Siege to the normal mode for them. But my proposal for the Alliance Battle Villain Siege would be to basically take the top 3 members of the Alliance Battle at the end of every week. So let's say, Bonal, Jamal, and Pedro were the top 3 scorers for my alliance at the end of the week. Then at the start of the reset, they would have, whatever, 12 hours or a certain amount of time to select 3 characters, and then those 3 characters that they select would then be randomly chosen as 9 and randomly scrambled into the Villain Siege mode for all 40 members of the alliance. Those 3 heroes would get shuffled and then randomly slotted as easy, normal, and hard. And then, I would open my Villain Siege. Oh, okay, I've got Jamal's boss here. I've got, Jamal's boss over in normal as well, it turns out. And then I've got Pedro's boss over in hard. That would be pretty interesting. And you could even have it where the easy and normal bosses are a percentage of the effectiveness of the actual character, and the hard mode boss is actually the full character. Obelisks, ISO sets, Uru, uniform upgrades, all that stuff. And that would be a really fun way. It'd be like, oh man, Jamal, it took me 3 different characters to kill your hard mode Villain Siege boss. You geared him really well, or whatever. And it would just be a really fun way to introduce competition between alliance members without having to code a whole new mode in. Of course, you'd have to back end all of the stuff about like choosing and randomizing and all that stuff, but you wouldn't have to introduce a new tab. You wouldn't have to like take up more space on this home screen, which is already crowded enough as it is. We even have a sub tab menu, so it could be a really interesting thing for them to do to refresh Villain Siege and make it more interesting for alliances. The last suggestion I have for Villain Siege is probably the biggest change that I have, but I think it could be really fun if we had something like this for Villain Siege. Basically, it would be to totally change the way we see Villain Siege right now as 3 different modes here, and we would basically just have one Villain Siege button in the middle. And when you start the Villain Siege, it's basically going to be either a tiered dungeon or an endless dungeon, but basically you have the same zone, that same square or rectangular zone in boss fight against the first boss, which would be easy. But then once you kill him, you either wait while the game loads and it loads in another villain, or you run through a long, empty, scenic path while the game loads in the background. And then when you get to the next like zone in area or large battlefield, then the next Villain Siege boss would show up, and of course this one would be harder and there would be new hazards. And then once you kill that one, you repeat the same process. You go down another winding, narrow road, and you get to the last boss, which is the hard mode boss. And this mode obviously would flow much more nicely into the endless mode that I was suggesting, because then it could just be a series of dungeons kind of stitched together with these invisible loading screens that are given justification by these long winding paths. Again, I think this would probably be the most difficult to code. I don't even know if it's possible given the game's coding, but it would look really awesome, and it would be really fun to play Villain Siege that way, I think, instead of them just being self-contained missions that you go on, you know, titled easy, normal, and hard. Also, you could fit them together more thematically that way, so you could have a Villain Siege day where it's just all the Asgard villains. So maybe the easy stage is Destroyer, the normal stage is Loki, and then the hard stage is Odin or something like that. You could even have like a Spider-Man day, so the easy villain is Green Goblin, the normal villain is Dr. Octopus, and then the hard mode villain is the Vulture. And you could even thematically design the whole level to reflect Spider-Man's, you know, motif, like New York City or whatever. You know, the Homecoming movie is dropping in July, Netmarble, so make it happen. You know, Shocker, Vulture, Sandman, we need those guys. So those are my ideas for Villain Siege. Those are the ideas that I have cooking in my head. I want to hear what you guys have to think. I'm curious what you guys think of Villain Siege, if you think it's fun, if you think it's tedious, especially if you're a new player. I know what a veteran feels like playing through Villain Siege because I do it every day, but I'm especially curious how newbies feel when they first start the game after a week, after a month, after 2 months, if they already start to get bored of Villain Siege or if it's still fun for them, if they like the aspect of Villain Siege where you just beat the shit out of bosses and it's really, really easy and mindless, because that is appealing to people, and that is something that even a game that's super challenging in other game modes needs to have as kind of a stress release or a way to just, you know, blow through content with even your favorite underpowered heroes. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know what your thoughts are on Villain Siege, how you would change it, how you would make the game mode that's already good even better. And of course, guys, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.